What a terrible and awful take. Now, this is a story from the New York Times opinion section called "Free Speech is Killing Us." My word, that title is incorrect and terrifying. Free speech actually protects us in so many ways. Noxious language online is causing real-world violence. What can we do about it? That's just such an absurd jump to conclusions. Free speech protects us from tyranny and atrocity. Free speech allows us to challenge major corporations. It allows us to challenge the president. I can sit right here, look into this camera and say, Donald Trump, are you listening? Screw you. Because we live in a country with free speech where I don't have to worry about someone saying that was offensive to someone's sensibilities. It is an incredible thing because very few countries actually uphold these tenets that I can tell the president in no uncertain terms to go screw himself. It's amazing, right? I think whether you like the president or not, you recognize the importance of being able to say that. It's the old adage. I condemn what you say, or I disagree with what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it. Well, the New York Times thinks free speech is killing us because the New York Times is, well, they're out of their gourd. This is by a guy named Andrew Marantz, who I know, and I am, what's the opposite of a fan? See, here's the thing. This guy who wrote this story also wrote a story about me for the New Yorker. It's right there. You see those 2 pages? Where's my hand? There we go. Okay, see those 2 pages right there? It's a story he wrote. In it, he mishmashed some quotes from me and made a false narrative that created a controversy. And then instead of saying they misquoted me, like we accidentally explaining, like we took 2 stories from Tim Pool and mashed them together, changing the context, they said we removed the quotes because they contained errors from Tim Pool or something like that. Or it said we removed the quotes from Tim Pool because they contained errors. That's the best of my recollection. The point is they screwed up. The correction they put in framed it as if it was my fault, and that was used against me. So I think this guy is, you know what they say? You ever see the movie Almost Famous, where the musicians call the journalist the enemy? I'm like, I wonder if people ever think about that when they look at stories like free speech is, this story from the New York Times saying free speech is bad, essentially. Or if they think about what Trump says about the enemy of the people. They literally in this movie called him the enemy. And so I want to stress something about my personal experience and my personal opinion with journalists like Andrew Marantz. They will meet you, they will smile, they will shake your hand, they will act like they understand you, and then they will come out and insult you and degrade you and lie and hurt you. They will try to destroy you. And that's why you have to be very, very careful around these types of people. And I know a lot of people who trusted him, and all of a sudden now he's framing it like they're propagandists and provocateurs, and it's a complete negative, stereotype. He did a TED Talk where he basically said we need restrictions on speech and all this other nonsense. He tries playing the game, which a bad faith manipulation of the actual argument, where he says in this, private platforms don't have to uphold free speech. No scholar reading the Constitution would ever believe that. And then all of this, all of the people who don't read the news sit behind him clapping like, monkeys with cymbals, agreeing with him because he's misconstruing the actual argument. The actual argument is that tech platforms have overtaken the town hall in terms of political discourse. And that means the commons have been usurped by a major multinational corporation for which we must regulate this. That's the argument. Not that a private company should be forced to do whatever the government wants. That's a fake argument. Let me restate it for those in the back who don't quite understand it. The commons, a referral to our public resources, the air we breathe, the water, the things we share in our existence. Town center, town hall. The place where we come for political debate. It has been usurped, okay? Now let me tone it down. It's been overtaken by technology. Information travels through these digital networks, and when we want to have conversations, these conversations happen on a private platform. Because there is essentially one private platform for political debate, Twitter, and while we can say Facebook for the most part, we know the media circles Twitter. We now are faced with a problem. Somebody who is banned from Twitter is no longer engaging in the political arena. The most important point is that Donald Trump is on Twitter. Donald Trump is not on these other platforms. He's on Facebook. So Facebook, it's a fair argument. There's more than one. But the point is, if Trump says something and it's newsworthy and you want to engage with it and a private platform closed the door so you can't, that is a private platform usurping the right to address a politician. Could you imagine, what do you think would happen if Twitter decided to start banning any leftist who criticized Trump? Yeah, they'd flip in 2 seconds and demand free speech. That's the point. I don't care what your ideology is. They have usurped the commons, and it's time for something to be done about it. But let's read this story from the New York Times. There has never been a bright line between word and deed. Is that a joke? That's the first sentence? Are you insane? Yes, there is. What? There's a huge bright line between word and deed, and we have lawful precedent to set that. You can literally say, go do a thing, and that's illegal. You can literally say, it would be nice if someone did a thing, and it's not illegal. We know where the line is when you direct someone to do it. And if you want to talk about word and deed, those were both words. Okay, saying, oh, won't someone rid me of this priest? While we understand the danger of saying a phrase like that and what it might lead to, there is a distinct line between that and going out and taking out the priest. Okay? Yet for years, the founders of Facebook and Twitter and 4chan and Reddit, along with the consumers obsessed with these products and the investors who stood to profit from them, tried to pretend the noxious speech prevalent on those platforms would metastasize into physical violence. In the early years of this decade, is he referring to Antifa, I guess? Because they're the ones who typically start it, right? Not always, typically, I said. In the early years of this decade, back when people associated social media with Obama and the Arab Spring, Twitter executives referred to their company as the free speech wing of the Free Speech Party. Sticks and stones and assault rifles could hurt us, but the internet was surely only a force for progress. No one believes that anymore. I'm sorry, dude. This is one of the worst things I've ever read. And this is why the New York Times has become trash. Here's a guy who essentially screwed me over and ruined a story that was factually wrong because he didn't understand. He mishmashed two different quotes for whatever reason. He must have written them down. I have no idea. And then combined two stories, and it changed the context of what was actually saying. And this is important. Context matters. And it triggered a bunch of outrage. And now he has the nerve to say no one believes the internet is a force for progress. Of course it is. The cat's out of the bag. The future is here. This is democratization of political opinion, and you can do nothing about it, okay? We have a constitutional right to our opinions, to express our opinions. I understand. The public debate is happening on a private platform. Well, yeah, that's a problem, and my position is we need to take back the commons. I don't know what you do when look, conservatives don't agree for the most part. He says, not after the social media-fueled campaigns of Modi and Duarte and Trump. I'm pretty sure Modi supporters, Duterte supporters, and Trump supporters all agree it was a good thing and that meme magic really helped them out. No, you can see how he frames it. He's clearly on the side of the people who believe in the authoritarian restriction and tyrannical approach to shutting down anyone who dares speak up in the face of their oppressors. You, my friend, it's really, really funny. He tweeted, something about, his tweet said something to the effect of, now we have Nazis on this platform, and, so now we have to do something about it. And I'm like, it's really, really funny that he would actually complain about needing to suppress speech because of Nazis, because you sound literally like the Nazis. I hate the argument they do, the stupid, It's insane how everything devolves to who's the bigger Nazi, but come on, man. When you're talking about authoritarian speech restrictions and you're cheering for the massive multinational billion-dollar tech company to restrict what is allowed to be said, you're the baddie, okay? We're on the side of the people, okay? Even the bad people, because we recognize that sometimes bad opinions are said, but that line is clear to us. And we do have to recognize that sometimes people cross that line. We can publicly condemn that speech. Congratulations, you have cancel culture. How about that? Are you happy now? How about you keep your cancel culture but stop banning people? How about that? Let the crazy guy stand in the corner preaching about the sky falling, and everyone will think the person is crazy. Good. And then people will choose not to associate with him, but he'll still be allowed to speak. Twitter, Facebook, and yes, to an extent, YouTube have dominated public discourse and our ability to share ideas because we're not going out anymore. We're not going to town hall. And that's why, by all means, take away someone's monetization on YouTube. I agree with that. You have no right to YouTube acting as an ad agency on your behalf. But when you suppress videos, when you ban people, you are now removing people from public discourse. Look, I'll agree. It's true. The speed of which information is traveling, the information overload, has resulted in some insanity and some extremism. But what is his solution? We must recognize the First Amendment should be changed. He goes on to mention that 2A, has ever heard of the Second Amendment? Yes, because we do have restrictions on 2A and we do have restrictions on 1A. We recognize incitement is not legal speech or expression, but expressing how you wish someone to do something actually is. It actually is protected. He says, using free speech as a cop-out is just as intellectually dishonest and just as morally bankrupt. For one thing, the First Amendment doesn't apply to private companies. What an insane and pathetic statement to make. It's almost like he's lying to people on purpose. Who doesn't already understand this, 200-year-old statement that means nothing, addresses nothing, and speaks to nothing about the argument? Even the most creative reader of the Constitution will not find a provision guaranteeing Richard Spencer a Twitter account. Twitter, a specific product, I get it. But even if you see social media platforms as something more akin to a public utility, not all speech is protected under the First Amendment anyway. Libel, incitement of violence, and child bad videos are all forms of speech, but they are not legal, and we know it. And there's a big difference between Twitter banning you for saying, I just plain don't like this person, and you doing something that is literally a crime. What you're advocating for here is to uphold legal precedent on social media platforms. Yet we censor all of them, and no one calls it the death knell of the Enlightenment. Yeah, right, because we agree. Courts have set precedent. We know that restriction. Okay, you know what? I'm going to stop right here. We get it, okay? I can rant on the New York Times condemning free speech. Sure, it's an insane article. But let me just say, based on what you just said, Andrew, I'll agree with you. And I think you're right. Twitter should be held to the exact same standard for all speech, shouldn't it? Yep. So if somebody wants to post libelous material and it can be proven, if somebody wants to post incitement to violence or cause for violence, yeah, we should ban those things. Agreed. And everything else that is legally protected speech should be allowed. Is that the point you're trying to make? Okay, whatever, man. The New York Times, I could read more into this, but I keep these segments short for a reason. I love the people like at the New York Times who try and rag on political commentary, saying that we pretend to, we try and stuff our videos. And I've gotten that criticism too, but let me assure you, I do everything in my power to keep these videos as short as I can. Because as you may know, I can literally talk forever. So I'm gonna wrap this up here. New York Times, trash opinion. I appreciate the publishing of it though. I do. It allows me to see what this person believes. I'm not gonna put it on the New York Times for publishing it. I'm not gonna blame them for posting someone else's opinion. But isn't that funny? Isn't it funny how it works? That Twitter says we can't be held responsible for someone else's opinion. And then news organizations say, we just publish it as an op-ed to entertain ideas. It's a lovely situation, isn't it? I just can't stand it. Let people speak their minds and let us choose what is good or bad and who should be ostracized. I got one more segment coming up in a few minutes. Stick around. I will see you shortly.